we do it anyway because we get the watch hours and we get the
Plus one viewer. I'm heading on over to Tito
there we
Santana
go.
HS.
There. No, bread and butter HS.
Oh, my bad. Did you always do that?
No, that's been probably new since you've been here. Pretty much Alkali was like, you probably should split it, and I was already thinking about it anyway.
Solid plan.
And
yes.
she
plus one viewer on bread and butter HS. I see it live.
Yeah, she tracks us separately, which is weird. Like Tito versus bread and butter are two different things.
All right.
Yeah. So let me see. I just got to switch over to moderators. So with today's topic, feel free to, riff on anything that comes up. Don't feel like, oh, we're going off topic, because this is a topic that can go kind of like in any direction.
I don't know, man. I'm really uncomfortable with improvisation and riffing on things. So I feel like I need to stick to a script. Do you have something written for me that I can just read off?
Well, we have the show notes, but I know you're kidding because you're a streamer that has to do this all the time. All right, now I'm just gonna.
I may have also riffed a time or two on previous bread and butter appearances.
Well, that depends. Let me see. Where do we go here? All right, what episode are we on, Pilot? Do you remember?
155.
155. Let's go.
Nice.
Doing this a while now. Episode 155 featuring the wonderful Ron Mexico. No, not the racist. Not he was racist. Not the bad.
Some loud
dog hating
typing
football
there.
player.
It sounds like somebody's wrong on the internet with how loud it is.
That. Let's see. Allow when I revisit. Sure. Yeah, I've just I finally got it so I can stream without headphones, because I had to deal with the mic gating to make sure it's not picking up the games and all that.
Nice.
But let's see. What are we looking for here? Do I have? I have two different setups too, because right now I'm still in New Hampshire because I wasn't driving home today. I'm teleworking tomorrow, and ideal, and then I have to drive tomorrow after I plow the driveway and all that. But we'll get through that. But normally I record it. Like now I'm staying at my parents' house, so I have that place set up, and I have the different monitor setups and different whatever setups. It's weird. All right, let's see here. So I think we got everything. We're live here. We got moderator here. Too many things. Too many buttons. All right. So when you said you're done driving your wife, is she at work or did you just pick her up?
She's at work. Yeah. She works 7 to 7.
Got it. So at least it should be done snowing by then for you guys, or has that already stopped?
I don't know. It seems to not stop. It's been going for like 24 hours straight.
Yeah, we got at least a foot outside.
It just stopped snowing here like an hour or so ago.
Yeah. I mean, it was better on the drive to work today than it was picking her up from work earlier this morning. So slight improvements. We'll take it.
All right. What time is it? We got like 3 minutes. Figured if I'm going to make a graphic and announce it, we probably should wait and start the actual time.
Got to catch that. Seahawks went forward on 4th and goal at like the 5-yard line. Contested catch. Guy couldn't come up with it. And the Seahawks take over up 31-27 with about 5 minutes to go. I don't really care. I just enjoy if there's like kind of a close game. I suppose I'm rooting for the Seahawks because I think they're a better team and I don't want to see the Patriots win another Super Bowl. That's it.
You might want to stay home on Sunday in 2 weeks.
How so? What? Because you think they're going to win?
I have no idea. they went through a very easy schedule, and they're riding their defense right now. And apparently, I mean, Drake May's fine, but he has not exactly been playing that well for the last. Drake May hasn't really been playing that well over the last few games, which they still have been winning anyway. I mean, today was kind of snowy or whatever, so yeah. And I thought when you said the goal line, I thought I thought it was the Seahawks. I was like, oh, that they've never had trouble at the goal line on a playoff game before.
Yeah, classic. I don't know. Like I think either team is better than the Patriots, but hard to say because Patriots just kind of had this super easy schedule all season long, and then in the playoffs they played the Chargers, who didn't really belong, the Texans, whose QB situation doomed them, and the Broncos, who had their good QB injured and out for the playoffs, and had a guy who hadn't started a NFL game for the last 2 years try to beat them, and they still only won by 3. So it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know how good this team actually is, and they're already in the Super Bowl. It's absurd. Like, just the most Mickey Mouse run ever.
All right, let's see. Can I move this? Small. No, I don't want no more styles. Okay, boom. Oops, nope. You don't want to mute you. All right, sweet. All right. What time is it? You guys ready to start the show?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
All right. All right. Bear with me here. Let me find the. Here we go. Nope. Got to put it to live. Now we can do it. Welcome back to Bread and Butter, where we are serving up the basics for Hearthstone improvement. This is episode 155 on January 25th, 2026, and I am joined, as always, by Pilot and his cats. Pilot, how are you today?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, and we are joined by one of our absolute favoriteest guests that we bring on over and over again, and we're thankful that he keeps coming back. Ron Mexico. Ron, how are you today?
Oh, you're too kind, Tito. I'm doing great. Happy to be here. Happy to just be inside and outside of the crazy weather, like the winter storm we're having right now. So anything is better than being outside at the moment. And happy to share this time with you two.
This is one of those weird times where it's like everybody is in the storm. So it's like across the nation.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's wild.
We're all picking up the snow. Ted Cruz is in California. It's all normal stuff. So, Ron, what have you been doing inside of Hearthstone lately?
Well, for about 20 hours a week, maybe a little less, I've been streaming Hearthstone and cycling through a diminishing roulette of decks as I slowly start cutting decks that I don't feel like playing anymore. Started after the mini set with like things that looked a little bit different, just for some variety. And now I've pretty much slimmed down to an Imbue Rogue, Discover Hunter, and Cycle Demon Hunter. Discover Hunter's really never gone away from me. I just keep playing it. It's my favorite deck. Imbue Rogue isn't as good as some of the other Rogue decks, like just straight up Elise with no Imbue cards is better, but Imbue is more RNG based and creates more variety for stream. And Cycle DH is okay. It's not a bad deck, and it's different from what I've gotten to experience lately in the game, so I'm keeping it for now.
It feels like the Discover Hunter kind of came into fruition, whatever, right at a good time for you, because I know you were kind of getting very tired of what was available and what was not available. So the fact that you found a deck that you really, really like seems to be good. Did you try out the quest? We know it's bad, but did you have any success with it?
So I played Quest Discover Hunter, I guess. And I queued it up for the very first time. And I played the quest on turn 1. I think I coined out Exarch Niall on turn 2 or something. Played like a Patchwork Pals on turn 3, along with the 1 mana card that fills up your hand with cards, temporary cards. And then on turn 4, I played Mukla to discard the entire hand and complete the quest because I had already filled the hand to complete the quest. And then on turn 5, I played the quest reward. That was my first game with the deck. And that went well because it was the literal perfect sequence of turns. Oh, also on turn 6, with barely any cards in hand, I used the tracking hero power to find a terror scale and immediately trigger the death rattle to discard my opponent's entire hand. All of literally the most perfect possible sequence from turns 1 through 6. My opponent wound up playing a Grifta, stole my minion, crashed into something, and made me discard my whole hand immediately after that. And I barely won. And every other game didn't go in the literal most perfect way possible for 6 turns, and I lost hilariously without even a chance in hell of winning. And then I deleted the deck after that.
Nice. And did you dust the card as well?
I would never. I never dust any hunter cards. Even after they go to wild, I only dust the golden copies. I keep the regular copies.
I had the same thing. I tried with the Murazond, the one that skips the turn and gives you the dragons.
Yikes.
I did it. I'm like, the way this could be good was if you did it with a ramp druid and get it out there super quick. So I actually had a game pretty early and I got Krona on 4, contingency'd, played it on 5, still lost that game and lost every single other game. So it was like, I'm like, this is the most ideal situation outside of maybe, being a blood DK with 1 billion armor or something like that. But it did not work out. But I tried. I was like, day 1, we had to try. Pilot.
Glad you tried.
I am as well. Pilot, what have you been doing inside of Hearthstone?
Just kind of chilling between 12 and 1500 legend, which is higher than I've been the past few months, probably because I have more time, and when I'm playing, I'm a little bit more focused. Not that I've been playing much more than I had been, but it definitely makes a difference not playing, it with marching band exhaustion for September and October, and Christmas exhaustion for December. So I've been playing the Cycle Broxgar DH and really been enjoying that deck, and have been surprised at how good it feels, especially because Broxgar, was put in a lot of decks, but you never got past the second or third portal most games, and now it's actually part of the game plan. So that deck has been fun, really interesting to kind of figure out the lines with that, and then still playing a few games here and there of the Burn Rogue that Edelweiss had shared in one of the Discords. It's not a great deck, but it's been working for me, and it's definitely one where you get some decisions that you can make and sometimes just do 1 million damage out of nowhere because you set up a turn and they don't play anything relevant, and you Morchi, prep, daggers, and do a bunch of damage to their face. So that's been enjoyable. Had a little bit of a busy week, so didn't get as many games as I wanted to, but those 2 decks have been new and enjoyable at least.
Nice.
So I went into this week saying, don't care about the rank. I'm already, whatever. We're towards the end of the month. I said, I'm going to try to make some new decks work. And I held to that pretty well for a while. And I still am there because I'm still playing the bad decks. But it was with a goal of, we're not going to try to push for improvement this month. We're just going to try to improve that deck building. And I tried to make kind of an aggressive, more aggressive, sometimes not as aggressive, depending on which cards we were trying at the time, Dragon Priest go. And then we tried to bring back like Zerg Death Knight, which actually wasn't so bad. Tried to bring back Starship DK because I really played a lot of that and all that. And then I was like, I pulled out the list that I used before and I played it. And then on turn 4, I was like, oh, that's right. This card doesn't have taunt anymore. They took the taunt off the crystal guy. So I was like, that's going to make things more difficult. But I did accidentally queue into a game with that afterwards. And the Orbital Halo was right next to it, and I was able to do that and copy it and all that. And I had a really fun game where we both went to fatigue, and my opponent had one card in their hand, and I was pretty sure it was Grifta, so I never launched that second starship, and it was just sitting there, and we were controlling the board, and had a lot of fun with that. But the Dragon Priest, I think I figured out what the problem is, and because you can get some, I mixed it with the priest buff stuff, the like, hey, we will buff stuff in your hand, and the augur, which makes the cost of, you might not know these things around their priest cards, and they're not very much played priest cards, but there's like a 4-mana card that will make your minion have health or armor equal to the toughness, to the highest of the two. So I'm getting some like 11/11s with evasive on turn 4. Things are going great. I'm still losing. Actually, I'm probably playing at maybe like 45%, so it's not horrible, but it's not great. And I figured out it's Black Rock and Roll. It's just another version of Black Rock and Roll, because the whole thing is you put up big stats, you put them on the board, you're like, well, what is my opponent going to do? And then they dubious purchase, and they do all the other stuff they can do, and it seems like they generate exactly what they need. But the problem is I got tilted, because it wasn't that I was losing, it was that it was always to a turn 9 Ziliax. And it was always like, I got it. We figured this out. And then it didn't matter the class, didn't matter what their class identity was. Turn 9, Ziliax came down earlier and just stomped what I was doing. And it's like, well, so I was a bit tilted.
Sounds like that's on you for not killing him before turn 9.
Yes, I 100% agree. Like Blobitar 2 was kind of a pain in the butt, but not as bad as the Ziliax, because this Ziliax is just, a stopper to a lot of things. And I will play the card in the decks that I'm playing because it's a good card, but I am very, very excited to see that one go off into wild and let them play with that for the rest of the time. And we'll just figure out what the next big Ziliax problem is in the future. But Ron, you were talking about the winter weather. What have you been doing outside of Hearthstone?
Well, I am going to be having to drive in it again tomorrow, unfortunately. But let's not focus too much on the weather part of things. Outside of Hearthstone, I actually have kind of excited about some things coming up this year. I have a start date now for going to nursing school, which is May 11th. So I'm really looking forward to that. I plan on continuing to stream while I'm in nursing school until I guess the workload might get to the point where I feel like I can no longer manage it. But it's an 18-month program. So realistically, I'm streaming all the way through until graduation, unless, things get too hectic. But that's like the big life change plan coming up. And yeah, we got a little under 4 months to go, and I can't wait.
That is fantastic. I don't know if you had announced that last time you were on. I know we had talked about it, but no, that is awesome news. And yeah, it's a lot of work too. And being a nurse is definitely not easy, but you already know that because your girlfriend's a nurse, right? So like
that's right.
You're not going into this blind. You get the stories.
I hear the good stuff. I hear all the bad stuff. I saw the work that it took to, get the certification and become an RN in the first place, which is what I'm going for, is going to become an RN. And yeah, I don't know, I started to feel like I just wanted to do something different with my life and feel like I was making more of a difference. I like to call it a positive midlife crisis, where I was just like, yeah, I feel like I need something that feels more fulfilling, and that's the goal. Going to try to make it happen.
That's fair. And I think it's funny because like you and your girlfriend both are talking, and you're talking about streaming. She's talking about nursing. You're going into nursing, but she's not going to start streaming. So I guess that tells you kind of where things end up. But Pilot,
don't rule it out. Maybe she'll become a streamer. I've already got the setup all ready for her,
So out of the Mexico residence, a new pre-streamer emerges.
Oh my god. She would be a warlock streamer if she had to pick a class. Warlock's always been her favorite.
How about yourself, Pilot? What have you been doing outside of the game?
Just surviving what feels like the longest 2 months that January has been. I don't know what it is. It's just felt like it's been forever. I was thinking that early last week. I'm like, yeah, we're almost to February. And I'm like, there's still a whole nother week left of this month. I think it's just because we've had so much enough with weather and delays and cancellations and stuff that, my school schedule and work schedule has been all over the place. And then my long days where we have, rehearsals after school or, pep band for basketball games are different each week. So it's just felt very, very long. But getting through that, also like these two getting through the winter storm, we ended up, thankfully a little bit north of the bigger impact in my area to where I think we ended up with about 8 inches here. And thankfully had a friend of mine who I worked with, her and her husband was going down to plow their son's driveway down my road, so he got mine on his way back, so I don't have to deal with that. I probably just need to shovel out the last little bit in front of the garage, so thankfully don't have to deal with that. And other than that, just somewhat literally trying to just get through the weekend. I don't know what it was, but I ended up feeling awful. I'm pretty sure I got food poisoning from something, but I woke up Friday night and just got hit awfully. So missed musical, missed everything. The Lorcana Set Champs I was supposed to go to that didn't get canceled for snow. Feeling better, but just kind of making it through. I'm very happy that we have a snow day tomorrow, so I can continue to sleep for like 18 hours a day and recover from that.
Jeez. Well, good thing February is right around the corner then.
No, yeah.
And February only 28 days. Let's go. So as I've talked about, I'm trying to build up YouTube and all that. And I spent a lot of time last week on making content. And one of the things so just like I have to come to grips with if I play bad decks or try to make new decks work, my rank's going to die. I also have to understand that the work you put in doesn't necessarily translate to views. And I know this, but the thing is, I don't even know how many videos this week, bunch of shorts for the most part. And I did one where I took a cinematic, because I'm just working on trying to get better at editing. So I took like some Sylvanas cinematics from World of Warcraft, and I kind of cut and spliced them and did things and put it to music and all that. And I thought it came out really good. It did really well. And it's one of those things, it's like every time you get something going on YouTube as a small streamer or a small creator, like you start seeing like a day, it's like, hey, it's going up, and you're getting likes and people are this like over 50% views. And it's like, oh, this is fantastic. And then it just plateaus. You're like, what the hell happened? And I made a couple other videos. I'm like, oh, these are great. These are going to do well. And they didn't, including one I made one with Pilot that I've been meaning to do for a while, which is just basically to the tune of Kitty by President of the United States of America, just his cat interrupting him as he's been podcasting for like and it came, I thought it came out pretty good. And I had another one where I had a bunch of them that I thought really came out pretty well with like things, but they don't do well. And then I throw together another like quick 10-minute one about doing another owl druid kill, and that one crushes. It's like, I don't get it. I don't understand. And but you have to understand, it's not like I still have to continue to make improvements on what I'm doing and try to make interesting, fun content, even if it doesn't hit, because when something finally does hit, my content needs to be good enough to hold people. So you
can take a lesson from like Hearthstone improvement and climbing in that too, where it's like, there are going to be a lot of things that are outside of your control, and you just have to focus on doing the right things. Like, you can lose a game of Hearthstone while playing perfectly, but if you continue to play perfectly, you won't lose all of those games, and your win rate will increase. It's probably the same kind of thing, but it is difficult to not get discouraged, I imagine.
It's not even discouraged, but yes, kind of. It's just like I've seen my numbers have gone up, but it's just like I just don't understand why some things don't catch, and like, oh, this one I really like this one, and it just doesn't happen. And then I'm just like, this one's fine. This was whatever. And then that one does really well. And then sometimes it's like a mix of like, it's doing really well. And it just stops. And it's like, well, whatever. But like, I'm enjoying the work and I'm learning a lot. And maybe eventually I can turn it into something else. Maybe I can make, if it's never for me, if I don't ever get there, maybe I can do some editing for somebody else or whatever like that. But I've been doing editing for this and for the podcast and all that. So we're learning a skill. I have actually started a class, a YouTube class, but a YouTube class on DaVinci so I can get to know it a lot better. But now we're doing things like transforms and shrinking boxes and moving things around. And it's been a journey. But I'm having fun, except for when I'm not. And yeah, we're getting there. But Pilot, do we have any news this week?
No real notable news. We did have a hotfix patch that came out earlier this week, just with some mainly Battlegrounds bug fixes and whatnot. Nothing major on the standard side. Arena, they banned Infinite Wolf for Hunter, which was, the writing was kind of on the wall for that, I think, but nothing too notable yet. Probably another this week or early next week, probably here, if we're getting any balance patch anytime soon.
All right. What Ron, before we go on, what have you thought of the meta that we're dealing with right now?
I don't know. It's just same old, kind of. I feel like we are in pretty significant need of rotation to freshen things up. And I mean, obviously, this is at the very tail end of the existence of a lot of these cards in standard, like Ziliax, for instance. You were talking about Ziliax on 9 just constantly beating you. That's something that nearly every deck that wants to go into the late game is going to run. And if you want to play any kind of faster deck, you kind of have to consider that as like your internal clock, where I need to kill them by turn 9 or also somehow set up some kind of reach and keep myself with an empty board so that they can't use their Ziliax to heal, type of thing. And that's just one of many examples of cards that just constantly you see over and over again. Elise is something that's in so many decks, and it kind of creates that level of staleness and samey type feel that you get if you jam a bunch of games over and over. That it's like the only way that this really changes significantly in the experience is when rotation hits and a lot of these cards are gone. So it is what it is, just kind of waiting it out until rotation happens.
I have seen so many Demolition Renovators because
yeah. Well, Copy Druid has become a thing now as well. I actually had that in my deck roulette rotation for a bit, but then I saw so many Demolition Renovators, I was like, maybe I should stop running this in my deck roulette. I wound up deleting it when I played against a rogue who main decked 2 Renovators and went Renovator, Step, Renovator, and I thought I was safe to play another location finally, and then they played their second main decked Renovator. And I was like, wow, okay, so I got 3 locations blown up in this game. That is some serious location hate. Maybe let's not play this deck anymore for the foreseeable future. I didn't really enjoy it all that much anyway. Druid is not my favorite.
That's fair. See, I've actually really taken to that deck. I've tried the more recent one that they put in the VS report, but I've been playing a Chronocopy Druid, which relies on the Drake and the Apollonius, and you get the things. And even if they destroy one of your locations, often it's like, well, fine. But I've had games where it's like I've had 2 locations destroyed. Oh, Owl's been dirty ratted. Drake's been eaten by what's his face, Ham. So like sometimes it can be, there's definitely a lot of interaction there, more than there used to be. But I'm looking at my stats now, not my actual stats because I don't have them all, but as far as streaming stats with the deck, I'm 105 and 94. So positive win rate. Yay.
Nice. That's a lot of games.
It is a lot of games, but it's been fun. But Pilot, what is our main topic tonight?
So tonight we're going to talk about common mistakes that we all make that we can try to avoid. So kind of a very broad reaching subject here, but something we haven't talked about for quite a while, so gonna just kind of flow through these as much as we can. So couple of the big, first big things that come to mind, I think that everyone is at fault of at some point, is playing distracted and playing too fast. To where, if you're playing just to relax and not really think about your gameplay, then that's one thing. But if you're playing to climb or to win, and also trying to watch Twitch and playing a game on your phone and scrolling whatever social media all at the same time, then you're not fully focused on your match. Most likely. So being able to remove those distractions, and then also being able to use your opponent's turn to think out a game plan and use that time to figure out what you're going to do, to look at what they're doing, see what cards they've played, anything that they've done that might not show up on that left side history bar because it gets, hidden by the end of their turn, is going to be helpful for you. And then, along with that, slowing down. Doesn't mean that you have to rope every single turn, but making sure that you're doing things, that you mean to, in the correct order, which we'll talk about more later, but also just making sure you actually finish your turn. Because it's so easy when you're playing quick, or maybe you had a high APM turn and you're trying to get in all those last attacks, and it's so easy to misclick and miss an attack. If you don't have those high APM turns, make sure you did everything. Big thing to look at, the end turn button is yellow when you still have something you can do, and green when there's nothing left that you can do. If you think you did everything and it's still yellow, double check. That's a really easy way that Hearthstone gives you to know that if you've done your full turn or not.
I make so many of these mistakes, and I'm getting better. I believe I have gotten better at a lot of these things. It's easy to, well, Ron, as you know, playing distracted as a streamer is kind of hard to not do, because you are trying to be an entertainer. You're trying to entertain with your good gameplay, but you're also interacting with the people that are there and whatnot. So I've been actually trying to use this to my advantage, because one of the things that I've been trying to do, like we've talked about, is trying to grow my own stream, and I need to talk more when I'm not talking to people in the stream, because I do talk and I talk all the time, but it's still, there are times that I'm sitting there, I'm just, no one's talking or whatever, so I'm looking at the play and I'm just making moves and probably listening to music and jamming and whatnot. And then it's like, if someone came into the channel, I'm not talking, I'm just sitting there looking. So I've really gone and tried to make sure that I'm trying to, right from the beginning, even if there's no one there, just be like, okay, so this is what I'm deciding to do. This is what I think I'm going to do next turn. Okay, we drew this card. Should I still go with my original plan? We'll talk more about that stuff later. But it is so easy to miss some of these. I can't tell you how many times I've actively closed Twitter on a second monitor, and literally I have opened up Twitter again before, like 10 seconds later, not even meaning to. It's just like, oh, there it is again. It is hard to put your focus onto the game, and especially like you're watching some rogue do an APM turn, my brain just like leaves, like I'm Homer Simpson, and Ned Flanders is talking to me about apple cider. So what are your thoughts on just these two basic things, slowing down and removing distractions?
I mean, it's just depends on like what your goals are for the game and what you're planning on doing. If you want to just like relax, chill, do multiple things at once and have a Hearthstone game that also happens that would be cool if you won, but no big deal if you lose, type of thing, then that's perfectly fine to just be like really distracted and juggle a bunch of stuff. But if your goal is to, win the game or improve or any number of things that just relate to like success in Hearthstone, then it is extremely important to try to put away those distractions, and like slow down makes sense for certain people and in certain contexts. You may have heard me say this before, but it depends. Like there are people who can play really fast and play extremely well. because you kind of get familiar with a lot of patterns in Hearthstone, with a lot of plays that you're likely to make. You have a mana cost, and especially in the early turns, it's pretty cut and dry what you're likely going to do. If you have 2 mana and you're holding a 2 mana minion that you usually want to play, you're probably just going to play that minion, and you don't need to think about it more than like 2 seconds. Just slam it and end turn. But there's plenty other things to consider, and more importantly, maybe is just like mapping out your turn. What I think has always been a really like good indicator of how to manage your turn properly and create better chances for success for yourself in a game is to look at your mana cost, the board state, the game situation, and have your gut reaction. This is what I do. This is what I'm going to do to spend all my mana. And then have that in the back of your mind as I'm reserving this much mana for these plays, and then let me look to see if there's something better. And is there something that I can do that draws or discovers, or something that creates more decisions that will inform what I'm going to do for this turn and next turn and so on. So the complexity just keeps on increasing the more you I guess go in those different branching directions. And it gets especially complicated if you happen to be playing one of my favorite decks, like Discover Hunter, where there's a draw and there's a discover and there's another discover, and there's multiple different options for what you might pick based on what you have in your hand and what your setup is and so on. That can get really complicated. At the end of the day, you just want to make sure that you spent all your mana in a way that is reasonably effective, so you don't fall like super far behind on tempo and get run over or something. So it's important, I feel like, in maybe the first 5 to 10 seconds, spot what the play is that you're probably going to do. Then try to figure out if there's anything better. Do your reevaluation when you're drawing and discovering, and then go with that play. And keep in mind, you've reserved mana for that play. So if you need to branch in a different direction, it complicates your decision if you have to spend other mana. Is there a backup play that spends this mana and does this other thing that's still fine? I know it's kind of a lengthy response, but things get more and more complicated the more decisions you introduce. So it's important to have your fallback right away.
And that's one of the things that I'm not great at, but I'm okay at. It depends, as you say. Like a lot of times it'll be like turn 3, I'm going to play this minion, and then I draw another turn 3 minion, and I'll be, oh, that's better, and I'll play it. Or I'll still play the first one, and I won't take, more than like a couple seconds to like, I won't even take a couple seconds to just play it. It's like, well, maybe I should have thought about that. And I think we talk about planning out your turn ahead of time too in a little bit, but that also goes into playing slower, because how many times do you forget to push a 1 damage minion to face because you were just doing your thing? Or how many times did you attack and then at the end of your turn realize, oh, I had 1 mana left. I could have also hero powered for that damage if I would have just slowed down and planned the turn instead of just kind of doing the things and moving on and whatnot. And in the worst case,
just don't slow down too much to the point that you rope out those other actions that you need to do. So like it's a fine line to walk, but absolutely, like for players that are going too fast, the advice should be to slow down. Some players are going too slow, and the advice might be, okay, speed it up a little bit and make sure that you have the time to do the things. Make sure that you can spot the things that are good enough, because it's so hard to have a perfect turn every turn in Hearthstone, but there's plenty of times that you're still going to win if you have multiple good enough turns. Just make sure that you have that as like, you can search for the perfect turn, but as long as you have your fallback of the good enough turn, you'll be okay in most games.
And as to Pilot's point of the yellow green, don't like just hit end. Like when you play Fyric, your 9 mana play Fyric, don't just play Fyric and hit end. I do that all the time. But you might end up with something with 0 mana in your hand that you can play. You might end up with more mana. You might end up with something that's happened that you can then maybe attack because you got attacked for some reason or whatever like that. Like if you play a card that does a lot of things, you play Yogg in a Box. Wait, don't hit end. Things happen. That's kind of the point of the randomness in Hearthstone, and it's
if
hard
that
to
is
do.
your play it earlier so that you have time to actually do it once the animations all resolve. So you didn't just like rope out the turn like, do I really have to play this as my last chance situation? If you identify that that's the thing you got to do, you better slam it quick so that you can still have time to make your decisions with whatever randomness resolves.
I do like playing fast with, like you're saying, a deck you really know. Like, I like when my opponent's taking longer turns. I already know the next play, or I know the play. This isn't like a thinking. It's like I'm so confident in this deck because I have 300, 500 games on it that they spend all their turn, and then my turn is click, click, boom, it's their turn again. And I kind of like that to kind of make them think, oh, now I got to think more right away. I'm right back to doing the thing. And sometimes that can be an advantage, because especially if they're playing against a deck that they're not used to seeing as much. Because if I'm playing like the Chronocopy Druid, maybe they haven't seen a lot of that, so they don't necessarily know what's happening. So I'm trying not to give them enough time to think about it, because I already know what I'm doing. I already know what they're doing. They're playing Quest Warrior. I know what they're planning on. So, it depends, like you said, but in general, take more time, think through your plays. I almost make it a rule of, even if you know what your play is, pick an alternate play. Is that play better? No. Okay, then go with your first play. Is it the same? Well, maybe. Okay, well then think about it a little more or whatever. What you got any more thoughts on this part of it?
Yeah, it's definitely something to where, as you identify, you have more actions and more randomness in a turn, then the sooner you have to play. And typically, as you're planning out your turn, if you know that you're going to do something that changes those variables, do those first. 9 times out of 10, you're going to want to do those things first. If you know, hey, I've decided these are the things that I want to do this turn, and one of them is draw, do that first, so that then you can evaluate that, compared your new card that you got compared to what you got or were planning to do. If it's something where you're going to generate a card because you're discovering, or you're playing Imbue Rogue and you're getting that random minion, do those first so that you can then make those decisions based on everything that you have, rather than doing them last and then getting a much better play afterwards and being like, oh, I can't play this anymore. That's such an easy thing to do sometimes once you're super set on a play, especially if you have something that involves a lot. I think the most common time that happens is if I've got these situations where, okay, I want to play this and I need to trade these minions and do this so that they can't do that, and then I've done all those things and then realized I forgot to draw, and you get a better play at the end. And it happens. It's just a habit that you kind of want to build up. And I do think most of the time that this all goes away, the time that you break the rule, is when you know that you have a high APM turn. If you're playing, a cycle rogue, that the Quasar Rogue has popped back up to where you have to play 20 cards in a turn. If you think, you're done. You've just got to your turn starts and you start hitting buttons and you start throwing cards around, and you've got to know those decks where you don't have time to sit and think, oh, is this the best play? You've just got to go. And there's some decks that are like that. The Arcane Mage that I was playing was like that. I identified, okay, this is a turn that I'm playing Sindragosa and copying it. I don't care what else is happening in my hand. I'm playing those cards and I'm figuring stuff out on the fly. And you just have to know that those are times to break that rule of figure out a plan A. Is there something better? Nope, it's plan A all the way.
And if you say to yourself, well, I watched the Hearthstone World Championship and they wait till the rope happens and then they make 20 moves. They're much better than you. They that's always so weird to watch too, is you always wonder, like, why don't they go in early? Because they're trying to make all their moves at the end and then they have to make quick decisions, but they're planning things out more, or some of them have more ideas of, hey, the percentages of what I'm going to get and whatnot. But like, I always laugh when I watch that they take this whole turn and they're just thinking, then the rope starts hits and then they make a bunch of APM moves. It's like, could have started that a lot earlier.
Yeah. But obviously there's a lot that goes into that, and there's so very many reps for all the players that are playing in like the Masters tours and Worlds especially. They have a ridiculous amount of games on whatever deck it is that they're playing in that moment. So they're usually extremely confident in being able to get all the actions off in the time that they leave themselves to do it. So they spend as much time as possible trying to find that perfect play. And then, when the time is pretty much up, it's like, okay, I got to commit now. So whatever play I've deemed is good enough or the best available, I'm going in on that one.
But definitely make a note for yourself too. If you end your turn and you realize, hey, I played that Creature of Madness last, and then I could have actually played what I got off the Creature of Madness because it ended up having charge, and that would have been useful. Then try to remember, hey, to play that first, and just don't get too upset at yourself or anything like that. But try to make notes for yourself and say, okay, maybe I need to change the order of things. Maybe I should have played the Creature of Madness before I played the Blob of Tar, whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
Also important to note, as you get reps on a deck and you have a deck that is going to have more APM style turns, make a note of what actions might have a longer animation as well, because there's a handful of cards here and there that just have longer animations and they definitely stall things out. I forget what it is in the Arcane Mage, but there's something that takes longer. I think it's right off the bat when you get that copy and the effect happens from Sindragosa. There's just a little pause while it's just like, hey, you get the discount, and if you're not ready for it, it definitely messes you up.
Yeah, it'll drive you crazy.
One of my favorite things that I used to do back in the day that I've been able to do recently is you can play the new priest card, the Wings of Eternity. It's a 1-mana Discover a Dragon from the Past, which can get you old school Nozdormu. And there's nothing more fun than dropping old school Nozdormu, hitting end turn, and watching the rope hit for your opponent right away and be like, all right, figure that out. That's
solid.
Chef's kiss. Beautiful.
So in a similar vein that we've kind of already talked about, with playing your turns, that also helps you spend your mana and your cards, most efficiently or as efficiently as you can. You want to make sure you're spending your mana primarily on cards and on cards that do things. If you have a 2-mana thing in hand, you probably want to play that rather than hitting hero power in most decks. Not always, but most decks. Playing a 2-mana minion is probably better than a Silver Hand Recruit if you're playing Paladin. So spend your cards, sometimes even if they're not ideal. Sometimes you have a battle cry that you're not going to get the best value out of, but you're also not going to get value out of it if you hold it for 4 turns not playing it and you're dead by then. And then, like we've talked about, we want to plan things out. That way you can use them efficiently, and especially when we're on coin. We don't want to coin too aggressively if we don't have something to follow up the next couple of turns with. If I coin out a 2-drop on turn 1 and I don't have anything that costs less than 4 in my hand, that's probably not a good idea. Probably want to hold that coin to coin something on 3 rather than coining it on 1 and praying that it gets something that I can play.
Yeah, absolutely. And knowledge of your deck comes into play there too, because you might have an extremely high concentration of 1s and 2s to where it could make sense to coin out a 2 on turn 1 if that's the only card in your hand, because let's say there's a 65+% chance you're going to draw one of these highly playable minions in your aggressive deck to play out and still be able to spend your mana and keep the pressure up. But very context based. In general, it's better to just make your decisions based on what your hand looks like rather than boy, I sure hope I draw the right card. But depending on how your deck is constructed, the chances of drawing the right card could be significantly higher than other situations. So just something to consider when you make those decisions.
But yeah, that 100% is play. And I think we planning out turn is next, but also planning out your next turns. And like Pilot said, don't coin out your right. So the priest deck that I was talking about, again, not good, but it has the interesting things of you have the Augur that you can play on for, you have the Slither Drake that you can play on for, you have a bunch of different options, and it's like, well, when do you use the coin? Do you coin something to get this out earlier? Do you coin to get the taunt out earlier? Plan your next few turns, and that doesn't mean you have to stick to them, because what your opponent does or what you draw might change that. But if you just use that coin and then they clear your minion and your next turn you're just hero powering your face and passing, that's not good, when you could have possibly played that Slither Drake on 4 instead of doing nothing, or on 3 instead of doing nothing. So have a plan, but be ready to change, because it depends.
There you go.
Yeah, I think we already talked a lot about planning out our turns, kind of just jumping around here, unless either of you have anything else you want to chime in on that before jumping ahead.
No,
on planning your turns
pretty well.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't just involve the cards you're playing. It also involves minion interaction too, right? Or going like how you're doing. So don't clear with your minions until like you've drawn, like if you're playing Cliff Dive, right? Don't clear with minions first. Play Cliff Dive first, because if you draw Magtheridon, or if you draw anything that's going to rush into things, that's going to possibly change how you do your turn. So
right.
A lot of times you go, all right, I need to clear here, clear there. All right, now let's play Cliff Dive. No, you could have kept half your minions alive, and you could have still done exactly what you want to do. Or if right now with Nomelia, like I copy with you can copy Nomelia with the thing, and you get different options. Plan those things out, because yeah, it looks like if I clear here and then it does 2 damage to everything, and you run the next guy in, it does 2 damage to everything. But if you do it in the right order, if you kind of get the math right and look at it, maybe you can save. Oh, you could have run the 4/2 into a 0 mana minion if I would have run the 1/1 copy into something else first. So take your don't just like, I'm horrible at this. This is why I'm bringing this up, is don't just say, all right, let me clear here, let me put 3 damage into that, until you kind of make the plays, or that might affect that in the future.
Yeah, but that's a good point, and that's something that like you're most of the way there, because what you've done when you say, okay, clear here, clear there, make this value trade, some 3 damage there, just to make sure that I'm making the effective trades to keep myself ahead on board and everything. You've identified like the knee-jerk play, this is the maybe good enough play if nothing else goes the way that I want. And then you just need to pause and keep that in your back pocket, and have thought through what actions you need to do and what time you need to do it and what mana you might need to commit to that play. And then you can do your reevaluate play, which is, in this case, I guess, Cliff Dive. And you don't know which minions you're going to get from the Cliff Dive. But there's plenty of other things that could be the play in question, if it's not a Cliff Dive deck or something else in general, where you still want to have probably mentally mapped out what your trades will be, because that's going to be good enough. But now you can play that Cliff Dive or draw or discover and see what changes the situation, then reevaluate it, see if there's something better. And if there's not something better, okay, go ahead with that play that you already committed to in your mind, that you've reserved as this is going to be the good enough thing. I couldn't find the perfect play, but I found a good enough play, and I can stick with that if nothing else goes according to plan, based on, what I guess unforeseen outcomes can happen, or the things that I don't have complete control over yet, that I'm going to have some level of randomness get introduced. You're trying to minimize the randomness and how it impacts you in a negative way. And that's why you just want to have that, all right, this is the plan until I find something better. And if I don't, I stick with that plan.
And there's one thing, Pilot, I didn't see in this list that kind of goes with this too. A lot of times you plan, you make those trades, or you do the things to make the trades, you hit the end, and you realize you didn't count lethal. You need to count like the first plan you should make is, can I kill them? And that you probably not, but at the same point, there's nothing worse than making a trade and then being like, oh, wait a second, I have lethal here because I drew this, or if I did this and this, and you're like, I don't have lethal anymore because I ran this minion into that minion and whatever. So while this is part of the being not distracted, right? While your opponent is taking their turn, count. Do I have lethal? If I draw a certain card, and you can even kind of like, well, if I draw Ziliax and I clear the 2 taunts, do I have lethal? Okay, so at least you have that in your brain that if I have a good solution, I can get there. And that's better. That should be your first step over planning out how you're going to make the trades, the value trades, because you don't need to make value trades if they're dead.
Yes, the cards don't matter if they're dead. Always a good rule of thumb. Another thing that I had skipped over also originally looking at this is when you do have those random effects, sometimes it is worth evaluating and deciding, is it better to do it first or later on, to where, is it something that's like a generated card, or summoning things on your board to where you want to see what you get first, or is it something where you want to limit the options, thinking like a cease to exist, the priest removal right now on Rewind, to where if you want to something like that, if you're able to trade into some little minions first so that it hits their bigger minion, then you definitely want to do that first, and kind of looking at those random style effects in that way, compared to thinking like when I was playing the triple unholy Death Knight, normally I would play the Shadows of Yesterday first of my turn before doing any attacks unless any board space, because sometimes you get Rush and Poisonous on one of them, and that takes care of your trade for you.
Absolutely, and that's a fun deck too to play. But it always goes down to those. We had that whole episode where we had Ron on, I believe, with was it with Language Hacker, or was it? No, it was where we talked about discovers.
Hacker.
We talked about making better discovers, or was that we have you on with that was with Banner, right? We had you on Pocket Train. That's right, Pocket Train. Too many great guests on this show talking about good decisions on Discover, and that's part of it too, right? Because that was more focused on, hey, do I pick something now? Do I pick something for later? But it also matters on just the state of everything. It depends. It look at what you're going to discover, and then make your plan from there.
Yeah. Some other things that are common things. Know what your deck is supposed to do. If you don't know what your deck is supposed to be doing, you're playing it wrong, you're probably not going to win very often. So if you're picking up especially a new deck for the first time, try to figure out what's the general game plan, what's the general speed of your deck, what are the powerful plays, different things like that, to where some decks are much more obvious than others at times. But you need to figure out what are my power plays, what are the ways that get me to winning the game, and then kind of figure out what the game plan is to get there. And if you're not able to figure that out just by looking at the deck list, that's where jump on Twitch, jump on YouTube, find people who are streaming it, find people who have done videos on it, things like that.
And that doesn't mean that that's how your game plan is going to be for the game. Like you may have a matchup, and this comes with matchup knowledge, but you may know that, hey, this is how I win, but I'm not going to have time for that against Zerg Death Knight or the Triple Unholy Death Knight. So then how do I take those pieces that I have and best spend them in a way that's going to potentially get me to a game-winning state? And that might be a lot different than the game plan that you would do against a quest warrior. So that's part of the thing too. So when we say know what your deck's supposed to do, yes, obviously you want to know what you're supposed to do with the cards, but also what is your deck also able to do if it can't do what you want it to do, or you need to do it differently, right? And I guess that's kind of vague, but I just know that sometimes you go into a game, it's like, well, you normally play these cards. If you do that, you're just going to lose. So then how do you find a better way to maybe give yourself an extra few percentage points and to not lose?
Yeah, for sure. Then mulligan, something that we've talked about before. But I think settling in the mulligan is a big mistake that a lot of people make. Myself, this is one of my big things that is something I need to improve on. Excuse me. Where if you have a deck that has a clear mulligan outlier, go find them. It doesn't matter what other cards you have most of the time. Go find that card that is 10, 15, 20% better than everything else in the mulligan because it's that high for a reason. Thinking, 4-mana Amir Drasil, things like that. Go get those cards because most of the time that's what's going to win you the game. If you have a deck that typically this happens most with very aggressive decks, if you have a lot of early turn plays, if you get your 3 cards at the start and they're all 1-mana minions, pick the best ones and then go find something to do the following turns. Not always, but normally, kind of set yourself up in that way to where you don't want to leave yourself high and dry after turn 3 because you kept a bunch of 1-drops and now, they're playing 3 drops that are easily taking care of your stuff and you're left with an empty hand. Again, not a set rule, but something that you want to keep an eye on to where do you really want to keep 3 1-drops or do you want to start to look for something else, thinking like the aggressive, the token paladin, to where if you get a bunch of 1-drops, you're probably going to get more cards to play. Drop 2 of them and go look for your Crusader's Aura or something like that. And then also a really easy trap sometimes to fall in is keeping cards that say draw. And I think that we need to be more picky when we're keeping draw cards because you can draw for free by mulliganing them. Just because it says draw doesn't mean that you are supposed to keep it. I do think that there are cards that are draw that might be worth keeping, especially thinking like a Chillfallen Baron in Death Knight because it draws 2. That's a little bit more easy to consider because it's 2 cards for 1 rather than the 1 for 1 if you mulligan it. But be a little bit more picky sometimes with keeping cards that say draw, especially if it's just a draw card.
It's funny, right, Ron? Because
Baron, go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, it used to be the rule was never keep tracking because you get a free tracking by mulliganing, but now you keep tracking and discover because that just reduces your taunts by 1. And so it's kind of funny how that used to be the example and now it's not.
Yeah, that is amusing. Also with Discover Hunter, the deck doesn't have very many turn 1 plays, so you're often floating mana on turn 1, so you love to just spend that mana instead and actually use a tracking. But yeah, it was a prime example of don't do this, and now it's the opposite. I feel like we get that happen a lot in Hearthstone. And to the point of Chillfallen Baron, what's interesting is even considering it as a draw 2 card often isn't good enough reasoning to actually keep it in the mulligan.
Mm-hmm.
What might be like more significant in why you would keep it is if, let's say, you already had Morbid Swarm and also the 2/1 rush minion, that the name of which I forget right now, that summons the Reborn on Death Rattle. And then it's like, okay, well now I have a curve, so I can do this 1, 2, 3, because the mana cost of Baron might be actually way more important to you in your mulligan decisions than any other thing that's happening. And if you don't have that 1 and 2, or if, let's say, you're on coin or not on coin, and you happen to have like a playable in between that can make it happen where you play a 1 and then you coin the 3 on turn 2, like, okay, this is fine, I can make this plan. And yeah, it's interesting. You can kind of formulate what your turns are going to look like based on your opening mulligan and settle for, well, I'm okay with this, or this is probably fine as like I have my first 2 turns that I can live with. And it's difficult to move off of that because of the fear that if you throw those back, you might not have any turn at all, but it's still statistically better to throw everything back and look for something else that's much more significant. In DK, I don't think it's nearly as pronounced, but let's say for Discover Hunter, if you're not holding Exarch Niall and you have perfectly reasonable turn 2 and then another, say, like 2 mana follow up to that, you're like, okay, I guess I could go coin 2 into 2. Yeah, you should probably get rid of those and just look for the Exarch, depending on what the 2s might be that you're looking at.
And it obviously it depends on your matchup. It depends on what you're doing. So what you would keep in your mulligan against a Quest Warrior is a lot different than what you would keep against what you might think would be Arena Paladin, right? Because and it also keys off potentially what you have in your hand. So if I'm not on the coin, so I've been playing like a lot of the Copy Druid. If I'm not on the coin, I'm not going to keep an Innervate unless I also have New Heights, because then I know on turn 2 I'm going to probably coin New Heights and get my ramp going. But if I don't have it, then I'm not going to keep. I'd rather have cards to play than the Innervate just in case I get it. I had a game, and sometimes the worst thing that can happen is whatever you keep is successful. I had a game the other day where in my opening hand, I'm pretty sure I had I was on the coin and I had the copy location, scrapbooking student, and Lady Ajara. And I was like, well, I'm playing a warrior. It's probably Quest Warrior. And I ended up copying it on 4 and Ajara on 5 and copying it and getting like, 35 stats on turn 5. And I'm like, well, they got to have, even if they have a brawl, I'm getting it out early. And, worst case, I end up with maybe a 20-20 or a 5-5 and they have to deal with it. And it worked out. But was it the right play? Probably not. I picked it out of like, well, this could possibly work. And it can be fun. Yeah, if you're trying to do something, if you're trying to have fun and like, oh, this would be really cool if I can get this to work really early. Yeah, great, do it. But if you're trying to get better, that probably was the wrong play. It just happened to work out that time. So,
well, information is pretty valuable. And if you knew that person was going to be Quest Warrior, like let's say you had faced them before on ladder, you recognize their name, you had just played them 5 games ago or something, and they were playing Quest Warrior, you'd say there's a really high likelihood that they're Quest Warrior. They're not going to pressure me, and these are my power cards. So it actually is the right decision to make that mulligan decision if you have that information. If you don't, though, if it was just a shot in the dark, you probably instantly die to a Dragon Warrior if you make that keep. So, you have to be okay with making that decision, knowing that there's a heavy punish. And that might just be based on, what's the percentage of Quest Warriors you've seen in your last, 20 games against Warriors in your rank bracket. And, you could say, I made an educated guess, or I made a percentage-based decision that was more in my favor than not with the decision I made, and be okay with it. If you can justify it in some way that's like, a reasonable justification with some kind of statistics backing it up, it's usually okay. It's at least defensible. If you're just shot in the dark, you might want to reconsider that if your goal is to win as many games as possible.
Yeah, and that's definitely something that there's a couple classes right now that are very dangerous to do that with if you're banking on mulliganing against a certain archetype, because Quest Warrior is definitely one of them, because Quest Warrior and Dragon Warrior are going to be very different outcomes if you mulligan for quests and think I have plenty of time, and then they just beat you atop the head constantly with dragons. Because that happened to me today. I didn't mulligan. I thought that was probably going to be quests, but I didn't mulligan for it, and then I just didn't get any good cards. I just got walloped in 5 turns. Paladin is kind of the same way with the Aggro Paladin and Aura Paladin. Very, very different speeds with those decks. So just be very careful thinking, oh, this is this class, it has to be this deck, and then it's not. And do you have a plan for that?
And also, I would say, don't mulligan to not lose. Mulligan to win. And what I mean is, I've seen a bunch of Paladin. A lot of times it's Arena Paladin. A lot of times it's the half Arena Paladin, half Aura Paladin, or Aura Paladin, whatever. And I'll draw and I'll be like, oh wait, I have the coin and I have Blabatar. Great, that'll hold them. It doesn't. So I was in my mind deciding, I can try to hold them off until I get somewhere. And if I probably would have thought about it, maybe I want to just, I'm probably not going to win this by, I'm probably not going to survive unless I, find my find my swipes, find my whatever it is, whatever I think the potential win condition is. So I think that if you mulligan to not lose, I think that's the wrong idea as well, because I think that that's just going to put you on the back, and maybe you won't lose, but probably you still will, because you're trying to not die instead of trying to win the game.
Fair.
Yeah, playing to not lose typically leads to a lot more losing in my experience.
Like that THL match that I played that last one with the I was playing the copy druid, and I could have gotten those I could have got Drakes down earlier, and I was trying to play to get to that last win, and a really good well, no, never mind, we're talking about mulligan. So anyway, there's so many different directions we can go.
Oh, there's lots of directions. I've definitely felt that with the mulligan, though. Like, it's so easy, especially in the mulligan, to pick based on tilt, because Tito, I complained to you about this when I was playing the Arcane Mage, and I was still doing okay with it. But I had within 5 or 6 games in a row, I think in 5 out of 6 games, I drew both buy one get one freezes before seeing any watercolor artists, or I didn't discount a buy one get one freeze for multiple games in a row. It was so frustrating. And every time I finally saw a watercolor artist, I'm like, I should just full keep this so I don't get buy one get one freeze in my mulligan like I have every other game. Don't do that. That's tilt speaking, not logic. But it's so easy to be like, I have had this awful thing, RNG happen so many games in a row. Do I do this to keep it from happening? Probably not. I considered it, and if I had other good cards, I probably would have, but I didn't. So be wary of letting tilt influence your mulligan.
Yeah, it's tough to resist.
We'll get back to tilt, I'm sure. That's a very popular topic, but yeah, that's 100% is like, you just get so frustrated, like, oh, I guarantee you I'm going to see this, so I should do this, or I should grab that, and you start keeping in some cases renovation demolition renovator in your hand because you're tired of seeing Elise on 4, and it's probably the wrong play, so don't let tilt guide you.
Oh yeah, I for sure do that though if I'm playing Death Knight against Rogue. If I see Renovator, I usually call it out like, this is a subpar decision. And also, if I'm doing this, I'm committing to never using its tradable either, because the moment I trade it, they'll play the Elise and get a location.
Yep.
And it's not even that good, because once they play the Elise, I kind of need to make sure that I kill it, because they could step it and play it again. And that's my one Renovator. And, there's just more locations anyway. But I mean, the dopamine hit when it works is significant. And I think that's what creates a lot of people, persisting in those bad patterns, because it's easy to forget the 10 different times you made the bad mulligan keep, and that card just rotted in your hand all game and didn't impact anything. But it could have been a different card that actually had impact and maybe influenced the outcome. But you can't really measure that. It's not something that registers. It's not something that you can really identify appropriately to what kind of impact that had on your game. But if you're thinking about it, that is absolutely something that could have changed the outcome. But then that one time where you kept it and then they played the card and you had the perfect answer, you're going to remember that. And you're going to remember that for the next, 25 plus times that you see that card offered in your mulligan. And you're like, ooh, that was really great when I made that thing happen. I want to do it again. So, you kind of have to resist the temptation if, again, you're playing with the goal in mind to win as much as possible and play statistically correct, or try to make perfect or close to perfect decisions on a regular basis. It is tough to resist the temptation.
Well, first off, when you're talking about keeping the Renovator as a Death Knight, you need to run 2. You need to keep both of them. Then you need to trade one, so they think that you traded it, and then you hit them with the other one. Like 5 level chess. But like the worst thing too,
that plan falls apart horribly if they just don't draw their Elise. But if they did, oh boy, it's gonna feel good.
Oh, I know how to draw an Elise. You just play Oaken Summons. It guarantees you draws Elise every single time.
Classic. Just summon it right on the board. Perfect.
But the same point, the worst is when like you start to feel like you know a deck and you win a few games, and then you're like, oh, this is how I win with the deck, and it's not. You just got lucky, and then it's like, but then your play patterns are like, oh no, I keep this card, I keep this card, I keep this card, and no, you really shouldn't. It just happened to work out the first few games, and yeah, it didn't go well.
Yeah. Another thing that is, this one is very me specific, I feel like, also, but something that I definitely struggle with is trying to count too many things at once and not having a system for it, to where I don't know how, I can't count how many times where I've been trying to count like a lethal and I'm counting up my damage and I'm counting up the mana that I spend, and then one of them is wrong because I was looking at, oh, if I play this card and this card and this card, and then I have 6 mana to spend, and I actually tried to spend 8 mana, and I figured that out after I've tried to play all the cards, and I can't play that last one. It's so easy to do. It's so easy to do.
That's impossible. That nobody can do that. That's an impossible hurdle to overcome. Counting is only for the absolute geniuses of our side. Everyone else, nope, can't do it.
29 for sure.
Yeah.
Unattainable.
It's so much worse for me in Hearthstone too, because like Lorcana, the deck I was playing, has the same issue, but that I can shuffle my hand around so I can put the cards I want to play all together, and I know these are the cards I want to play. Do the numbers match with how much I can spend? Yes, I'm good. Hearthstone, you can't do that because it's set in where it's at. One thing that I've done that has helped, normally if I have enough time, which sometimes you do, sometimes you don't, I do try to count them separately to where I figure out, okay, here's the damage I think I'm going to spend. Now let me count mana. Now let me double check my damage. And because I always miscount this stuff using Deck Tracker, I keep the little damage counter that I have on board on through Deck Tracker that tells me how much damage I have with my minions, just because I don't want to have to count that too. But use Deck Tracker to tell you those.
It's a fantastic shortcut.
It is.
There's a whole lot of things that it does for you, but sometimes Deck Tracker makes a mistake and doesn't count one thing or another, or maybe for whatever reason it registered like a minion that was on board that just got summoned as like available damage this turn. Any number of different random things that can go wrong, and if you just are fully relying on that shortcut and there's an error in there and you send it and you're like, wait, what? Oh no. So, it is very much a crutch, just something to keep in mind. Don't always take the Deck Tracker like shortcuts as gospel, because you might have a bit of a mistake some of the time that could cost you a match. So if you have the time available, make sure you're also kind of running through it and double checking that you do in fact have the play or the damage that you want, especially in certain situations where kill them this turn, obviously you win. Send everything and almost kill them, you instantly lose. So there's another play. If you don't have all the damage, make sure that you gain some health and remove some board, and you'll have a lethal the next turn. So just plan that out. Make that judgment before you fully commit or pay the price.
And so we just had a game like that last week where I was playing the Triple Unholy Death Knight, and I decided not to go in because I was going to be too short, but I had Kerrigan in hand. So I was going to play Kerrigan next turn and win if I had gone all in. I didn't go all in, and I ended up losing because I cleared the board or whatever like that. So understanding that, and to the math point, and I've admitted this here before, like I said, looking at the HS Guru, I've streamed 200 games of this deck with Copy Druid, and I'm sure I've played at least 100 more. That's not counted here, if not more. I don't know how to do owl math. I pretty much say I think this is enough, And I still have not figured out how to do that yet. I just kind of guesstimate, especially when you get like the location that has a +1, and then you have
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
So that I mean that I think that's a great point where like if you're playing a deck like consistently and you're learning the deck, there are plenty of ways that you can learn shortcuts and learn patterns for the deck and how it plays. Or if let's say you're playing an owl druid, what 2 owls will do, what 3 owls will do, what 1 will do with a couple spell damage locations that don't have copy, what 2 will do with 1 spell damage location with copy. Like all these different things you can you could even make like a little spreadsheet for it if you happen to be that inclined to be that dedicated towards, I want to make sure I optimize this deck as much as possible. That is absolutely something available for you to do, that you can just learn and make sure you know the ins and outs. So all that extra time that it would take to count that, you already have it memorized as shorthand. Personally, I've never done it. I just don't care enough. I cycle through more decks, and like I'm not committed to something like Owl Druid. So every time I played it, I would just be like, I have no idea how much damage this will do. So I'm going to slam the owl on the board. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to copy it again. And then when I hover the card, it will tell me how much damage it does. And I've just kind of got a sense of, this looks like it's probably enough to kill them. I don't know. They got like 30 armor and 30 health, but it does a lot. So I think they're going to die. And then, and I wouldn't recommend that. But if you have like a lot of reps on a particular deck, or even just a lot of games of Hearthstone in general, you do kind of get sort of a feel for certain situations and spots where it's like, yeah, no, this looks like it's gonna be enough. Obviously, if you want to win as many games as possible, you should know. You should remove that kind of question mark that presents itself in that situation. But there's other times, especially if you don't have the reps, where it's like, you can also identify, this is the turn to send it. If I don't do it now, I'm going to lose. So I don't need to bother with counting because I'm dead next turn. So let's make sure that there is no next turn. Let's send it all now and hope for the best. Yeah. So kind of fun, just different things that happen. But I mean, obviously you can remove that doubt just by doing some advanced prep work.
Yeah, apparently 200 games is not enough because I still just vibe owl.
Well, I mean, that's got, we already talked about, it's hard enough to count when you're just adding numbers. That's adding, multiplication. That's like calculus for Hearthstone players. That's like way past what we're doing.
Yeah, there was a time recently that I was streaming where I took like, I think maybe 5 seconds into, okay, so if I play this, then it will add this spell damage, and then I stopped and I was like, nope, don't care. Slammed the minion, copied it, sent it, lethal. Nice.
I need to write a plugin for it or something. Actually, the spreadsheet's a great idea. I'll talk to McGay, so maybe she has one already somewhere. But
we had one for the wilted shadow priest with bandages. Like how many bandages you had to do for damage.
There's probably a spreadsheet for like nearly anything, right? That has like a number of different patterns for damage and damage multipliers. Like somebody's probably already even done that legwork for you, so you can just search it and find it and have it as like a pretty easy go-to.
But when you played like the Nature Shaman burn deck, like that was always too. It's like, okay, how do I get there? Like, am I getting what's my damage here? I got the two Zappy boys, and I got the Crash of Thunders and the Flash of Lightnings, and I think I can get there. I'm not sure. That was a lot of vibes.
Just discover a Crash of Thunder, and then when you play that, have that discover another Crash of Thunder for you. Obviously,
what I don't think we can do that anymore,
why
right?
Why wouldn't you do that? Are you stupid?
Yeah.
Why didn't you discover the perfect card?
But the counting to the counting too many things, it doesn't just go for the mana in your hand or like the owl math or whatever like that. It also, we can manipulate your deck mana. You can manipulate a lot of things. So again, I'm going back to Copy Druid because it's what I know right now. But if you've played Krona, you now have 5 cards that cost 1. A lot of times you might know what's on the bottom of your deck because you've played Wave Shaping. A lot of times you don't. So then if you happen to play that, what the stupid card, I remember the name before, Oaken Summons. If you play that after you have played Krona, all bets are off. You might draw your Owl. So don't play that card unless you're ready to copy it and throw damage face because you're prepared for that. Because otherwise, there goes a win condition. It might be fine because you still have Drake or whatever like that, but know what your deck does and know what you're doing with the cards that you're doing. Because there's been times where I've been like, oh, that's my Owl, crap. And sometimes it's been like I've won, and sometimes it's been like, well, I guess I don't win this game.
Yeah,
that's about to say. I'm like, Tito knows this very much from experience. I like Tito knows this very much from experience because I remember the first couple days you were playing the deck, how many times you'd play Krona, and then at the end of the turn you'd Oaken Summon. So it's just like, oh, that's Owl. Whoops.
Yeah.
Because you think it's only going to pull a Blob of Tar because that's the thing that naturally costs 4 that's left, and now everything else is less.
And that's a deck that too, the order matters. With going back to the order, like if you have 5 mana and you have a 4 mana Krona and you have a Wave Shaping, play the Wave Shaping first because that informs you what's at. You can put stuff at the bottom of your deck that you then may cost 1. So it does make sense to play Krona and be like, oh, now I can Wave Shaping. No, that's stupid. So what were you gonna say, Ron?
I was just thinking, like, conversely, the you can plot out like better lethals that way. Let's say you only have 1 minion left in your deck and it's Owl, and normally you wouldn't make the plan to try to draw Owl and play it on this turn because it costs 7. But if you played Krona already and made it cost 1, then your 2 mana card that draws a minion will be a specific tutor for Owl, which means you're spending 3 mana to draw Owl, and now all of a sudden you can have that lethal that you wouldn't normally have because of all the other stuff that's expensive enough in your hand, along with the cost of a regular cost Owl. You couldn't do it. So having that knowledge in advance, like knowing what situation you're in because of what you've already set up, is crucial in a lot of different games. Similar to like Oaken Summons could pull Owl, and if you don't have the thing, you might have just lost yourself the game. Well, you can do it the other way where it's like, oh, I can draw Owl and play it naturally, or Oaken Summons hit the Owl and use all my damage that I have to just send it and go in. So yeah, you want to make sure that you're paying attention, which is a challenge for me when I'm streaming.
It's definitely hard when you're streaming. Yeah. And I had a game like that too, where I was like, come on, draw me the Owl. It drew me the Owl, and we did 6-7 damage to our opponent. So we were pretty happy about that.
There you go.
That was for you, Pilot.
It's my day off tomorrow. There's no need for that.
I heard teachers love it.
Yeah. So, excuse me. Some more specific examples that don't really fall much into another category. Not wasting your mana reduction. Classic example of prep coin. I watched that. Someone did that against me today. A tale as old as
time. Prep coin concede.
Yes, what was it? It was prep shadow step because they were shadow stepping a Foxy fraud because they wanted to make their dubious purchase 0.
Right.
And they did it in the wrong order. Or in Death Knight Maladar, making sure playing that and then playing the expensive thing with your corpses. Another thing with that I did also in miscounting too many things is making sure you have the corpses for the thing you want to play. Thankfully, I had enough little things on board. I was able to trade them off to get to the corpses, but I forget what I was trying to play. I think I was trying to get to either a 10 mana Elise Location or a Fire Rack or something. I only had like 5 corpses. I'm like, whoops. So I think I had a Fire Rack on board, and I was able to trade things around and make it work. But don't waste your mana reduction by mistake.
A good current example is Elise, because that location often has plus spell damage on your next spell. So don't hit the button and then coin, then hit the button.
Yeah. Very, very funny that you're playing so much Copy Druid, because it's like the only time anyone would ever pick spell damage off of Elise. It's like the one you always hate to see in every other deck. But in that deck, you're like, oh yeah, this is good. I like this.
Yeah, in that deck, you want the 1 mana. And sometimes I've gone 10 mana or 5 mana, depending on what the situation is. But you want 1 mana, you want copy, you want plus spell damage. And you'll settle for a spell that costs 1 less. Most of the time, you don't want the extra damage for attacking. You don't want the stupid raptors and all that. And it's such the opposite of everything else. You're right. And nobody wants to gain armor unless you're about to die.
I mean, it's hard to turn down plus 18 from Elise if you're just playing Elise on 4 into a 5 mana curve, depending on what you're facing. If it's like trying to kill you fast, you can do a whole lot worse than 18 additional health if they don't blow up your location. But yeah.
But it's not satisfying.
It's not satisfying. No. It's
also very unsatisfying on the other side.
Yeah. It also makes me very unhappy when my opponents get armor off of Elise, and then it's way harder to kill them.
Especially, I had one where is late game and they got the 10 mana one with armor, which is like 12 armor each time. I'm getting there, and then they drop that down. I'm like, oh, it's just backbreaking.
Yeah.
If you're playing a class where you're attacking with your hero, and happen to also have lifesteal minions, attack with your hero before doing the lifesteal. Definitely have done that on multiple occasions as Demon Hunter. Just get that order correct. If you're going to be taking face damage, heal it back up with your lifesteal stuff. And then also conditional effects. If you have conditional cards, make sure to keep an eye on those and make sure you have the effect satisfied if you're really planning on it. Thinking like some of the current dragons that require you to have a dragon in hand for them. Or trying to think if there's much else in right now. But either way, when you have those cards, they will be glowing yellow. Hearthstone gives you that nice little hint. Use it to your advantage. Same as the end turn button.
But so I have a good example of that one you're just talking about. Is I had it was turn 5. I had a Gift Wrap Whelp and a Slither Drake. And I played the Gift Wrap Whelp first to get the buff. And then I couldn't play the Slither Drake because I no longer had any dragons in my hand. So It was glowing.
Reading is hard too. Yeah, I've totally done that. Where you just assume like a card has different text, like a similar card to it in the past. Like I totally thought for a little while that the Slither Drake was if you played a dragon last turn. So and not if you're holding a dragon for the discount. So I was like, oh, I'll just play my only dragon in hand on turn 3 so I can have this 4 mana thing on 4. And then I was like, why does it cost 7? I read the card again and I'm like, oh yeah, I should have read that. So, probably should read.
It's not even just that. It's sometimes you get into such a muscle memory habit of this card costs 4. So sometimes, because you always meet the condition. It's like you're never thinking about it. So you're just like, wait, why am I? That's what happened to me with the Gift Wrap Whelp. I played the Gift Wrap Whelp to get the damage, and I was like, wait, oh crap, because I'm used to just having dragons in my hand to do that.
Yep. Yeah, and I mean, to a certain extent, like there's a lot of complicated things that are happening in Hearthstone. There's a lot of things to keep track of on a regular basis, and mental shortcuts are great. They're really helpful in a lot of ways, just to like save yourself some brain power, some energy that you're going to need to use on something else. But they can also hurt you when you just get a little bit too comfortable in this pattern of a mental shortcut that's there, and then you've totally shot yourself in the foot. So again, awareness is pretty important. If you're trying to increase your win rate, do as well as you possibly can in your games, it's just another one of those examples. Hey, maybe slow down a little bit. If you're going a little bit too fast, reevaluate some things, double check some things, and then play it out there. If you've got just like one play, it's basically like the only thing you're going to do. You don't necessarily have to rope it, but you also don't need to windmill slam it in the first like 3 seconds of the turn. You could take a moment and just, am I doing this right? Is there anything that I mixed up? Did I forget something? Did I shortcut my way through that and not actually think about it, and this won't work the way that I need it to work? Let me just pause assess that this is correct. Okay, now I can send it.
Ron, what is a mistake that you make often enough that your chat knows you're going to make it, or like the chat calls you out on it? If there is one.
It's usually like forgetting about like just in general forgetfulness is probably like the number one thing, where like there's an Anachronos effect as like one of the first examples, but that's impossible. Nobody remembers that. And also, like, there's this persistent effect that's in play. Maybe it's neophyte effects aren't really that easy to forget because your cards will show red in your hand, but some other discounts that might be applied, some increased costs that could be implied, discounts from locations, different things on like a minion, maybe an effect on a minion, a text, a death rattle, some kind of thing where it's like, I know that there's a way to play this in a certain way that is most beneficial to me. And I might have identified that on the previous turn, but then by the time that my next turn starts, I've totally forgotten about it. And I just start autopiloting through the turn. It's mainly kind of like a checked out, I don't care type of thing. I think that just like really significantly affects my gameplay in like recent months and year, maybe, where it's just like, I don't know. I just a lot of times feel like I can't be bothered to like keep track and lock in that much. So I'll forget stuff all the time. And I'll be like, oh yeah. And like as soon as the thing happens, I'm like, right. Yeah. I even talked about that last turn. Sometimes I start a turn by talking about a thing I need to remember in that turn in the ordering. And then I'll do something distinctly opposite of what I said I needed to do. Because it's like a typical mechanical pattern that I've gotten into in the past for how I would play it that I needed to flip in this case. And I called it out when the turn started, but by the time the rope is going, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll just play these cards out. Oops, did that again. Yeah, that frequently doesn't surprise my chat at this point anymore.
Pilot, how many times have I given a game plan at the beginning on stream? They're like, all right, this is what I need to do to win this matchup. And it's correct. And then on turn 3, you're yelling at me like, why didn't you stick to the game plan?
Yeah. Nice. Yep. So I agree with Anachronos. I lost count of how many times when that was being played a decent amount that you just kind of forget because you literally remember the next turn. You think about it because you kill the Anachronos and then you're like, okay, all the stuff is going to come back, and then you build up your board again, and then you get the one little minion back from the board that they poofed, and it's just like, oh, I didn't have to build that board.
Yep.
So every time.
And on the opposite end of that, like knowing matchup knowledge, a lot of this stuff branches in a lot of the other topics we'll talk about, but like if you know they're going to play Anachronos, or if you know they're going to play a brawl or whatever like that, you want them to play it because they're going to play it. And you don't want to just wait for it and not play cards, but you want to try to get it like get enough of a threatening board that they have to play it, but don't also drop the giants or whatever you might have in your hand, because then they just go poof too. But if like they're going to play Anachronos, they have to clear this board, and then I can follow up with my giants and my Baziliacs, whatever the heck you have. Like kind of you got to plan and know what they have, and that just comes with time. But the other conditional effects, like the other more specific examples, we talked about this a little bit, but another thing Pilot used to yell at me for all the time is you don't need to clear a minion that has 3 health if you have Magtheridon. Like,
yes, hilarious. It's a good one.
I'm a lot. Yep.
I'm very good at that. Like, okay, and I gotta kill that, and you're like, why did you do that? And it's easy for someone to tell you not to do something, and they're going to do it the same thing because it's a lot easier to autopilot. No, I need to kill that minion. Yeah, you're going to kill that minion because you have a 3 mana AoE that happens at the end of your turn.
He does.
But you had it in your brain.
That's crazy.
You had it in your head from the turn before. You had that mental note of I need to kill that, and then the play happened, and you're still mental note I need to kill that. You just didn't make a note. Oh, it's already dead.
I almost put reading the card explains the card as one of the things on this too, but I decided not to. But we've kind of talked around it. It's definitely something that happens all the time. Or,
really
it works, how you're thinking of it is kind of correct, except for like the 2 times that it's not. And they're like, why did this thing work the way that I thought it did? And then you're like, oh, yeah, that's not actually what the card says.
Understanding the rules of Hearthstone, and I know that sounds silly, but that matters because there's an order that things happen that you learn, and they're not like really written anywhere. What you have, Numelia. Numelia is a 6 mana 4/2 with Rush that deals its damage to the target and the 2 targets on the sides, and when it dies, it deals 2 damage. Well, that's his death rattle. Death rattle do damage to everything on the board, all enemies. Awesome for clearing Blob of Tar, because you run Numelia into that. The Blob of Tar dies, it summons its death rattle, then Numelia's death rattle happens because the order of the death rattles happen in the order of what they came on the board, I believe. Mm-hmm. But the same thing doesn't happen with Reborn. You run Numelia into something, it does the damage, then the Reborn happens. So understanding these little kind of nuances that happen, and they're not all, it's not always consistent. Do you remember the Titan, the Warlock Titan that would send things to the Twisting Nether, but you had to have the portal? So that way, if you got a copy of their Titan and you didn't have a Twisting portal, and you click the send everything to Twisting Nether, nothing happened.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that?
Yeah. I feel like they might have changed it at some point too. Like at one point, maybe you could click it even if you didn't have a portal, and it would Twisting Nether, but then they patched it so that it didn't work.
I think so.
I can't remember.
That sounds correct.
But that's another thing, obviously, to keep in mind. Like, interactions that work a certain way might not always work the same way if they patch it in later, rollouts, and then you're like, oh, I have to learn the new way that this works.
Funny you should say that. There is, and my point on this one is, this tilted me completely, like off the face of the planet. I'm playing against an Imbue Rogue. They play the legend, so they generated the legendary mage minion that has a random Titan effect every turn. They got the one that cleared everything with the Twisting Nether. They didn't have a portal, cleared my board and my locations, because that actually cleared locations too. So I was like, what the heck happened? Then they shadow stepped it and did it again. And it was like so I messaged Deck Tech on Twitter. I was like, is this the way it's supposed to work? He's like, that's a great question. I don't think so, but they probably changed it since they put it on the card. Like, oh, great. But no one's ever played the card. I don't even remember. I was like, for a second there, I was like, I don't remember a mage card, a mage legendary that sent things to the Twisting Nether. When did that happen? And it took me a minute to realize, oh wait, that was the one that had the Titan thing. So extreme example, but understanding the rules of Hearthstone really helps you to understand some of these interactions.
That's one they probably changed just because it would be a feels bad moment if like you got an ability that was totally worthless. I thought they removed the ones that didn't give you anything though, so it's kind of weird that they decided to keep that in as an option and not just remove it from the pool of being available, because as far as I remember, Agrimar was not an option because obviously Agrimar modifies a weapon. So kind of weird that they would, especially with such a powerful effect as that one, that they would be like, okay, I guess this can be in the pool and it can work, even though it wouldn't work under the normal conditions of the card. Yeah, a lot of idiosyncrasies in Hearthstone that after a certain time, you kind of just have to have multiple of them memorized if you're going to be, but that's the kind of thing you wouldn't realistically be able to play around anyway. If you're playing against a rogue, that's going to generate a random into a random that does a random. And then, it's just like, all right, you can't play around every single card in the history of Hearthstone because there's also some randoms that this guy can generate from the pool of wild cards. You kind of just have to play the game in the most upfront way, where it's like, these are the things that are likely to happen that I can make plans about. And if you try to make plans about the most outlandish stuff that could possibly happen, you're doing yourself a disservice, and you're probably going to lower your chances of winning. Like, nobody's going to play around the random mage minion twisting nethering you. And then, now maybe playing around it, getting Shadow Step to be replayed is a realistic thing now that you've seen it on the board. It's like, oh, this minion is now a priority to kill because I have more locations to make and more minions to develop. So I have to actually kill it so they don't step it, because I know they still have steps in their deck. But, you know, the first one, no shot you could have made a good plan to prevent that.
My guess is that I'm pretty sure they had removed that option, but it probably came back on a patch by mistake, and that card gets 0.0001% play rate, and it has so many optional random things that having it happen probably has. I'm probably the first person that's ever seen it ever. And playing in a note, playing to the Shadow Step, yes, that would have been a good idea, but I think I was so tilted in that game at that point that I was not seeing clearly at all. But to what you were saying is, yeah, sometimes the randomness can be predictable on some levels. If you're playing against somebody and they play Fyric and they have secrets, it's not Ice Barrier. It's probably there's a certain subset of secrets that are fire because he's playing fire spells. So keep in mind, like, it may not be as random as you think.
Yeah, I've definitely mental shortcutted my way around playing around a counter spell when someone had a mage secret up, but they played the dragon. So it's 100% a fire spell, and it can't possibly be counter spell, but I still played around counter spell just because I was like, that's the default mental shortcut that I have in my head when I see a mage secret, you know. So
you've been hurt before.
A little bit of critical thinking goes a long way in certain scenarios.
Yeah. So, any other final thoughts for mistakes, or any final things to throw out for mistakes we can avoid?
Don't beat yourself up. It's impossible to avoid making mistakes in Hearthstone. Making mistakes in life, making mistakes in basically anything you do. We're humans. It's gonna happen. So you want to make sure that you can try to minimize the mistakes that you make, minimize the impacts of the mistakes that you know are inevitable, and find ways to try to make sure that they happen less, or that they'll be more recoverable when they do happen. And see if you can identify mistakes that your opponent makes and how to exploit them, because that's a big way that you can increase your chances of winning as well. You can never find that perfect play every single turn of every single game, but there's plenty of situations that are good enough. If you can identify the good enough situations, try to limit the mistakes, and don't let it impact your gameplay too much when you make a mistake yourself. Sort of like the analogy for quarterbacks in football when they throw an interception. Have the memory of a goldfish, you know? It's gone. It's over. It already happened. You can't do anything about it to change it. So don't let it continue to bring you down and make you play worse from here on out. Recenter and figure out how you can make the best play that you can make going forward.
I agree with that 100%, but one caveat is if you keep making the same mistake, that is like insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. If you happen to keep making the same mistake, find a way to don't beat yourself up, but find a way to get yourself to stop doing it. If you find yourself that you keep hitting end too quickly, maybe put a Post-it note over the end button before you take your turn. And then you have to be, oh wait, there's a Post-it note my way. Did I do the thing that I want to do? And that sounds stupid, but if it gets you to stop making the dumb mistake, then yeah, figure out something that can help. It's kind of like people used to tie a string around their finger to remember something because they couldn't forget about it. Do what you need to, whether it's writing notes, keeping notes, putting something in your way, putting something, I don't know, whatever you need to do. like figure out a way to stop making the same mistake over and over again, but don't try to fix everything all at once. We did not cover probably an eighth of the stupid mistakes you could make playing Hearthstone, but this right here, fixing these things and solving these kind of issues is going to get you so much better at Hearthstone than solving what the meta is right now and understanding the matchups between this, that, and the other. That helps you for a little bit of time. That, yeah, sure, that's important and all that, but solving basic stupid mistakes is going to increase your win percentage a lot versus did I figure out how to beat this deck with that deck.
Well said.
Yeah, I think there we go. I think the only one that we missed is kill them before Zilliax comes down. That's a misplay we talked about earlier.
Yep. All right. So, Ron, my question for you, the question of the week is, what is your favorite beast hunter? Not beast. What is the best hunter hero skin and why?
I'm gonna have to go with honestly, I would say multiple Sylvanas skins. You kind of can't go wrong with the Sylvanas skins. Like, all of them are incredible. Just amazing lore character, and the voice lines on most of them are just exceptional. So I want to say it's like the blood something, sanguine Sylvanas, something like that. But it's got pretty cool art. It's got like the it's very red, and it's pretty cool. And then the voice lines are great. It's a good vibe. But you really can't go wrong. Like, all the Sylvanas skins, I love them.
Cool. Yeah, I sent you on Discord the shorts. One of those ones is a Sylvanas one I made, so I'd be curious of your opinion. I didn't realize you were a big fan. So yeah. So if you'd like to support the show, you can do so by joining our Patreon over at patreon.com/breadandbutterhs. You get the raw audio early. You get access to a member channel on Discord. You get to help shape future episodes. If you want to ask questions of our future guests, if you want to suggest guests, we're there. If you'd like to support us in a non-financial way, you can leave us a review. It really, really helps. I recommend the financial way only because we get to do giveaways sometimes, and we give away to our patrons, and we don't have the kind of patronage that like Coin Conceit has. So you have really good odds to win things. So if you're looking for quick ways to possibly win things, I don't know, maybe check it out. And you can leave us a review, that helps. And if you are looking for more Bread and Butter content, we have a YouTube, Bread and Butter HS, where we post a lot of shorts and the VODs, and you get to see Ron's wonderful flowing hair and all kinds of good things. So, Ron, how can people find you if they would like to find you on the social medias?
Well, I really only have just the one social media, which is Twitter, and what I do there is post that I'm going live on Twitch, and that's the only thing pretty much I ever post outside of giveaways when they happen, with expansions that release for Hearthstone for either the new expansion or mini sets. But that handle is at Ron_HS. And you can also find me streaming Monday through Friday on Twitch at Ron Mexico HS. Usually go live right around 7 p.m. Eastern. Well, probably like 7:30 p.m. Eastern, but in that range, you'll find me.
Pilot, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Blue Sky, Pilot712. That's PYLET. And also on Discord.
And you can find me at Tito Santana HS on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, Blue Sky, especially on YouTube. And I still post a lot on Twitter because I just can't stop. Ron, do you have anything you'd like to promote or shout out this week?
Nope. I usually have an answer or something. It's in the forefront of my mind, but no, I'm a little tired today. I couldn't think of anything. Shout out to you guys as always. I enjoy being a part of your show. Love having you come on, having you guys ask me to come on as a guest, and it's always fun to chat about Hearthstone and other things. So yeah, love some bread and butter content.
And we're looking forward to having you on when you can talk about how being a nurse can help you in Hearthstone. Pilot, anything you'd like to promote or shout out this week?
Going to shout out my cats for, after being a normal menace while we're recording, helping us finally create some content instead. And right on cue, one hops right up next to the mic.
Fantastic. And I'm kind of tired of looking at your face, Pilot, because that took like a while of scrubbing through a bunch of just you staring at the camera and like talking and drinking and whatnot. And I had something that I had thought about during the show, but I completely forgot it was. So we're just gonna say, you know, check out my content. I'll shout out This Week in Hearthstone and Just a Guy. And I guess Jay is no longer This Week in Hearthstone. Now he's just Jay at This Week, because he's kind of branching out. But shout out to them, because you know, I've been bouncing a lot of things off of them to as far as the content I'm making and whatnot. And I'm sure it's probably annoying, but like, you know, you got to have a sounding board. And especially to Spuds too, who's been spending a lot of time on the channel. I appreciate him. But anyway, guys, I think we're toast. We'll see you.
See ya.
See ya.
All right. It's actually a pretty short episode, all things considered.
Sweet.
Yes.
Ron, as always, wonderful. Love having you. It depends.
Yeah,
It never depends having you on, though.
Well, it was a good time. I love talking about mistakes. I make so many. It's part of the Hearthstone experience for sure. I should probably get going because I got to get up extra early to scrape off the car again. Which takes like forever to go pick up Michelle. But yeah, it's been fun. Till next time. See you later, guys.
Ron.
Yes, appreciate it.
And you've been in chat. Thank you for hanging out. Pilot, we're going to do a game of duos. Is it early enough?
I could probably do a duos. I was going to go right away, but my head's starting to feel a little bit better.
All right. Well, everybody have a good night. Just so you know, if you're listening, you probably don't care, but I'm probably not going to get the episodes out until Tuesday, because tomorrow I have to work and then plow and then drive back to Massachusetts and whatnot. So I may not have time, and I may get down to Massachusetts and decide, hey, I'm just going to stream and whatnot. So we'll see how it is. It might be a Tuesday. I'll post